This is Cydni.
And I'm Sher. And each week we get together to share with you a message of hope.
It is through our own study and our personal experiences that we offer the reminder to not only seek the light,
but be the light. You can find peace, and there is hope.
And as long as one of us is slightly caffeinated, there will be laughter.
Today's topic is Write It Down.
And we're so glad you're here.
I'm forging my way through the tip top. I'm living my life through the drip drop.
Today we're going to talk about writing your own words down. So what do you have over there, Cydni, to get us going?
I wonder if the inspiration came for writing because God's like, hey guys, quit talking. Just start writing in a personal journal alone.
That's a good point because he has a lot of kids. So it's journal time. Everyone write something down. Just be quiet, listen to heavenly music, and write. I like that, Cydni.
I'm not that complicated. If he told us it was nap time, warm milk and cookies, that would work. Just kidding. I hate milk, but I would do a nap.
Milk, Cydni.
Yeah, because the first time I think I really met you, you were drinking warm milk at like 2 p.m.
I was not drinking warm milk. I like my milk cold, but I do like milk. It's so yummy.
Who has a glass of milk these days?
Me.
So does Rock. He loves milk. Gross. No offense. I like cheese though. But I know that you were not as excited about this. And maybe some of it came because recently I was looking for something. Rock needed a poem for a class. And I knew I had a good collection in this old bin. And I pulled it out and happened to find all my old journals from the time I was about 12 up to 19.
That's very cool.
And I've done a lot of work in the last few years to learn how to love myself and see worth. And in about 20 minutes time, I ruined all of it. Every bit. By reading those words that I wrote, I was in such a state of cringe that I have not recovered. Iano picked up one and she was reading and I grabbed it from her and I said, you guys may never read this, which I thought that was the point. You write for the future generations. I don't want anyone to read those.
I would agree. I am not happy with this topic. This was Cydni's idea. I have made some really pathetic attempts to journal, but I opened up my journal and let me just tell you, it was just cringe-worthy word vomit all over the place. And I also now feel bad about myself. So thank you, Cydni, for bringing this topic up and making me look at my old journals.
Right, because all of the work of going to your inner child and saying, Cydni, you are important. You are loved. It's going to be okay. All of that is ruined. Now, if I go back and I see her, I'm going to tell her to shut the up. Put the pen down. Go outside and play. Quit it. The poetry needs to stop today.
I didn't find my poetry, but just the words I wrote were so bad that I feel the same way. But the entry I was reading was from college, so I might have been 19. I don't know, but it was horrifying, Cydni, so thanks a lot.
Well, I'm going to tell you, this is how I deal with the cringe, is I'm going to share some of it with you. I'm not going to read it word for word because I will vomit in my mouth, but I'm going to tell you that I learned from my journal. I once asked a boy to a dance. Is it called Morp or something, the backwards? Yeah. I asked him in Sunday school during a prayer.
During a prayer?
Yes. I said, and please, God,
no,
ask that Jacob will go to the dance with me. Why? I also put in there, I've already told you, but I was sad I didn't get to dance with a certain boy, but Mr. RV danced with me. What?
And so then I asked when Cydni brought this up, I'm like, who's Mr. RV? I thought it was like a cool slang name for the football player or something.
No, it's like a math teacher, the one that's there to look for girls who don't get any attention from the boys. They're like, go make sure that this one is, not depressed. So go ask the less fortunate girls to dance. Mr. RV danced with me. How? How did we dance? Was it the Macarena? Was it the electric slide? Or was it like, I will be your hero, baby? Like that. Like, what was it? I need details, 12-year-old Cydni.
Well, it depends on if he got fired shortly after or not would be the answer to that question.
No, he did not. So I think he was a good man. I think he was just like, poor girl. Anyway, I have several journals. And I am in love with someone new about every 6 months. I don't know their name yet.
But you're in love with them.
Completely in love. Like my heart hurts. It's aching because I was poetic. I have to burn all of these today.
She has that book in her hand. I might have to steal it and just make a podcast all by myself.
Just reading it? You won't be able to read it. You will have secondhand embarrassment and you will never talk to me again.
No, I'll read it and put really cool music behind and read it in a calming voice. It will be great.
Ugh. I dug myself in a hole, and you will hate me after you read this. So, but we're going to get through this, right? Because we're going to talk about the scientists and leaders of the world who say it is actually good to journal, which I would love to hear what they have to say, because I will tell you how I feel reading the old stuff. It does not align with the benefits that I've read.
I would agree with that. Just the little bit that I read, I was like, what in the heck? Why did you write it down? But Cydni, I do have to read something that I found in my journal. It was a letter that I wrote to my friend, and I never sent it to her. Sorry, Jamie. Maybe I'll send it to you now. It was written when I was in college. And I vaguely remember this. A group of friends and I bought a hamster and gave it to another friend as a joke. And I don't remember why that was funny, but apparently it was hilarious. And then I told Jamie, who lived far away from me, about the hamster. And this is what I wrote. I went over to visit the hamster. It was struggling to stay alive and kept trying to walk around. I, being the wonderful, compassionate person that I am, picked it up and patted it on the head, calmed it down, and comforted the poor thing.
This is good. This
Thank
might
you.
be similar vibes to mine, though,
Really?
honestly.
So I was comforting it, just as a review, until the hand of fate and death intervened. I took it to Dwayne, and his vet schooling came into play. All the hamster's internal organs were slowly stopping. This is the dreaded hamster disease known as wet butt. I'm pretty sure he made that up. That's not a thing. Okay. To prevent unnecessary suffering, Dwayne killed it, broke its little neck. It was terrible. I wasn't even around the dumb thing, and I was devastated. We held a very formal and proper funeral. Dwayne chucked it into the lady's backyard across the street.
What? Is this a true story?
I wrote it down. I'm assuming
that's
it's
true.
I don't know. So then it says, I hit him. That's how it ended.
Wow, you need to send it still.
She'd be like, what are you doing to me? That's
From 1991. That's a good reason to journal, though, or write,
Yeah.
is to remember this kind of story.
And
Because that's
who-
not really a core memory, but it should be.
why is he chucking a hamster in some lady's backyard? The poor lady. That's horrifying. That whole story shows what a butt I was.
That says a lot about you. It answers a lot of questions that I've had, Cher.
I was a horrible person. Just reading what I did, I'm like, I was a horrible human being. But I guess that's the point of journaling, is that you realize that you can change and grow up.
I like that. Thank you. I needed to hear that. I'm not the
Thank you.
same. It's slightly different.
Right? You can grow up. I read a quote from President Spencer W. Kimball. He said, every person should keep a journal, and every person can keep a journal. And now I'm going to make it worse, Cydni, okay?
I'm ready.
I read the definition of a journal on LDS.org. A journal is a continuing record of meaningful experiences that affect our lives. Through his prophets, the Lord has commanded each of us to keep a journal. As we record our activities and feelings, we can more clearly see the Lord's influence in our lives. This does not help me. The Lord has commanded us to keep a journal, and that just made me feel really bad about myself.
I did keep a journal when I was 12 and 14 and 16. I have lots of journals in my house I keep unwritten in.
That's step one, I guess, right? As I was glancing at my journal that I do have, I noticed that almost every entry started with, I'm so bad at this. Or look at me, I'm finally writing, then followed by crap, I'm really bad at this. It's pathetic. But the Lord has commanded each of us to keep a journal. And I realized that I'm not doing it. And it made me feel bad about myself. But I did think of this. It talks about how we record our activities and feelings. We can more clearly see the Lord's influence in our lives. I focused on that because this is one of the points of journaling, so that we can see those times that we are down or we lack faith or we're struggling, that we have a record of the times that you have felt the Lord's hand and felt his love and felt his grace. You're writing about miracles that happened in your life and the comfort that the Lord has been able to give you throughout your lifetime. We forget about those moments and times, but when we have a record of it, those memories come back to us, and it's giving us our own testimony to lean on, which is really cool. So we are basically creating our own set of personal scriptures. It's about me and the interactions I've had with my Savior. So this is the point of a journal, is to help us in our own life and in our future, but it's also to leave something for your family so that they get to know you a little bit better and so that they can see your testimony grow throughout your life. Now, as I thought about this, I was feeling super bad about myself, but I realized that I do record activities and feelings, but not necessarily in a journal. I'm really bad at expressing my feelings and saying how I feel, but I've always been able to do that through music. I'm not great at it, and it's something that I just like to do for me, but it helps me that if I write things down and put it to music, it always has helped me get through times that I struggle or express my happiness or joy or whatever. I have been able to do that through music. Another thing that I realized I do is I record activities through photos and through video. For my family, I have been ripping our old VHS tapes and old DVDs, and I've created a server for my family, and they can access all the photos and the home movies that we've made and created over the years, from Christmas to Thanksgiving and birthdays and vacations and whatever, that we can all access. And I know that I should write things down, and I know I need to be better at it. So I'm not making excuses. It's something that I need to do and that I can work on, but I do have a start. It just may not be in written form.
Yeah, that sounded like an excuse to me, but I have an excuse as well. So I will share my excuse now. My excuse is I use Twitter. Is that okay?
Sure. I mean, if we're going to come up with excuses, Twitter definitely works.
You're right. I do actually love to write. I just didn't realize how bad it was. So for a long time, I had no problem writing in my journal. Obviously, I have stacks of them from that time. But once I got married, I stopped writing. I had other things to do and another human to talk to. Maybe that had a lot to do with it. But after I had Iana, I started a Twitter account, and I would share so much of the things that were funny in our life, which it's funny because if not, it's depressing. And now for the last 2-3 years, I haven't even done that. So I've done nothing for the last 3 years. But there was a time, and I'm so grateful because they pop up as memories. And I am so grateful that I wrote some of the funny stories down. I'm going to share one with you that I love so much, remembering this, because I don't think I'd remember this conversation in the car. But it's when Iana, she was 3, and Titus was 7, Rock was 9. And Iana said, "Mama, I want you to hold me." And I said, "I want to as well, but I can't right now." And then Titus said, "That's so mean. She asked you nicely." Then Rock chimed in, "I agree. Why can't you just hold her?" And then I reply, "I'm driving. It's illegal to hold a 3-year-old while you're driving." And then Rock ended with, "Whatever. She'll remember this." And then I have another one of Titus that's my favorite. He was pulling his tooth really hard. And I said, "Titus, what are you doing to your teeth?" And he said, "I'm trying to get it out. I need the money." He was all about the tooth fairy at that time. I'm like, "Tooth fairy's broke, bro. Put that back in." One thing when I've been studying on this is that the best they say is to handwrite it because it activates more of your brain. But they also say that in this day and age, that if you are writing notes in your phone or emails or writing on a computer, it's better than nothing. So Twitter is fine. And so is making your videos.
Thank you.
Could we be better? According to some, yes.
You know, the reason also I need to kick myself in my own butt for not being better at journaling is because my mom was amazing at it. She'd buy a calendar every year, and she would write what she did every single day, just really briefly. And then when she had a minute, she'd look over her calendar and write down the big things that really mattered to her. I think that is where I would always get frustrated, is that I would try to write too much. And so it took forever. I was always way too detailed. So I'd get frustrated because I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't want to take 3 hours journaling. But if I would have followed my mom's example of just writing a brief outline and then hitting the big stuff when you had time to do it, I probably would have been better at it. And then maybe I would actually want to do it if I would have followed my mom's example. But I'm going to tell you one of the things, so please take my bad example. I wish I had written more things down, because if I had written down all the weird crap that happened in my classroom, I could have written a book about it. I would be filthy rich right now, because I am telling you, every classroom teacher will tell you, no one will believe all the things that happen in your classroom. It's insane. And I don't have a record of all of it. I just have faded memories from wardrobe malfunctions to kids fainting in my classroom to tantrums where kids broke desks in half. And this one time when a girl was out of control and bit a police officer's calf, he had to go to the ER.
What?
I know, I'm telling you.
I thought you were going to say arm. That threw me off.
No, calf. Good times. You can't bring him back. But writing things down is important so that you have those memories and so that you can go back and look over your life. To a young me, I would say right now, only focus on the big things and those day-to-day things that you're writing about. Outline it like your mom did. And those big spiritual moments, those are the things that I wish that I had a better memory and recollection of.
I love that. One of the takeaways I had in preparing this is I think the difference is intentional journaling, because my grandma that I never met kept a little journal. It reminds me of what your mom did, sort of. She just wrote down one sentence every single day, and that's a safe way to do it.
Yeah, she's very wise. I can see why my mom just left an outline, because all the little details I'm writing down, humiliating.
I know what I have written, what I have allowed to stand for decades is so sickening. But also, I think it's okay, because one purpose of writing is to vent, and that is healthy. So there's a few benefits from writing that I'm going to share with you. You shared some in the beginning that were more spiritual. This is from therapists and YouTubers.
Very important to get that part in. YouTubers.
So I listened to several videos and put together the ones I liked on this list.
Of course you did.
Yeah. So the benefits of journaling or writing things down is that it will clarify and help you process how you feel about different emotions. If your mind is feeling really jumbled, then it's a good way to stop, pause, and be aware of how you're feeling, which will then help you to deal with what situation you're dealing with and deal with the feelings that you have. Also, it will help you to get to know yourself. You've kind of mentioned this, Sher, but you see a pattern. Even in the terrible 12-year-old self, I could see how important my faith was. It was in every single entry. I was so grateful that I could pray or go to a church activity. It was such a foundation for my life. And I know that, but when I read back on my 12-year-old self or 14-year-old self, it is there consistently.
I'm really glad you said that, because when I was glancing through my stuff, I was focusing on all the humiliating parts. But you're right. On every single page, I talked about God and faith and going to a church activity and how fun it was. So I'm glad you brought that up, because I might try to dig through the cringe again and just focus on the God-centered aspects of it.
I've read enough, but I appreciate that about you. I saw that it was there. That's good enough for me. But it's true. You learn about yourself if you journal. And writing also reduces your stress and your anger. It helps you deal with your sadness and your grief. It helps you to solve problems. I thought this was interesting, that typically when we are trying to solve problems, we use our left brain. But when you write, you activate your right brain. And what that does is it helps you to see a problem from a different perspective, and you can more efficiently solve a difficult problem in your life. If you write out the problem, write out some solutions, you might just find a solution that way. Another is that you become more self-aware. I liked that a woman said, she stood in the forest, why she said this. She said, when we're little, that we think the world revolves around ourselves. Which I stopped there and I thought, okay, but if we're journaling about ourselves only, then you can make the world revolve around you. And I just stopped there. So if you want to be the main character, you could be if you journal. I also like that you can express your emotions in a safe place. Someone suggested if you wrote knowing that you're going to destroy that piece of paper, it is incredibly healing and freeing. In my journal, I'm pretty sure I thought it was going to be turned into a book, because I was so flowery and ridiculous and wordy. I was probably sitting there writing like, how will I want the people to read this? But if we write, then we get to reflect on our experiences. And Jane Fonda said about this, she said, it's not having experiences that make us wise. It's reflecting on the experiences that we've had that makes us wise. And that helps us to become whole, brings wisdom and authenticity. So if we spend time reflecting on our experiences, then we can learn from them and hopefully not make the same mistakes over and over and over. I should have started reading my journal when I was 14, the ones from when I was 12. And then I could have said to myself, hey, stop doing this. Let's learn together. And of course, in every book I've ever read about healing, writing is always, if not one of the top 3 suggestions. And I've always found that to be interesting and aligns with a belief that I have that no matter what you've gone through, what you've experienced in your life, you can find healing without spending millions of dollars. And I've always believed that. I believe God will provide a way for us to heal. And writing is a way that's free, unless you're like me and you buy 9,000 journals that sit there in your house and some in your car. And some in your husband's car. But you can just simply write out your emotions and you will find that writing is healing. It's a cure. And I found this to be true with Iana's pregnancy. I was on bed rest. And the only thing I could find joy in was either watching stand-up comedy Or I wrote a blog that I exaggerated and shared on Facebook. And so I just like would make up what was happening in the day. And I just wrote. I spent the whole day writing. And it helped me so much get through that hospital time. Then after I had Iana and we were home and I was facing postpartum depression, I decided to write everything out. And I spent 3 weeks. I wrote the whole story, all my feelings. And I do attribute my success from getting over that time and not having it weigh me down to just writing it out. And we tell our children that when you keep feelings and thoughts inside, it is a poison. You have to get it out. And ideally, you have someone to talk to. But I love the idea so much of writing something, knowing you will throw it away. And I look back on some of my journals and I can't even imagine what I wrote down that I actually ripped out, because there are gaps in all of my journals that I've ripped out. And if I thought those were bad.
Do you know what's funny is I have ripped out journal pages too. And I'm like, what on earth did I write? Because the rest of it is so horrible.
Exactly. Like, where was the line for me? And so writing things out helps with healing not only deep sadness or depressions or anxieties, but it also has physical health benefits as well.
Interestingly enough, after my stroke, writing was one of the things that was the most difficult for me. I would try to practice every single day, and sometimes I would just write a little bit and then I would have to take a break for a good chunk of the day because it was so exhausting. It really did help because I could feel my brain working and trying to create those new pathways, helping me to get better. And that was through writing. But going back and looking at all of my journal nonsense, I think it got me walking down memory lane a bit. And I thought about in high school how I used to love to write stories, poetry, just write whatever. And I also got into a poetry phase where I read a lot of poetry. And one of the things that I found from Emily Dickinson is a quote from her. She said, "I know nothing in the world that has as much power as a word. Sometimes I write one and I look at it until it begins to shine." And I love that because words really can shine. I've thought about the times in my life when someone took the time to write me a note or an email or a text, and how to me, their words just shined right off the paper. While I was teaching, if a student wrote me a really nice note, I kept it in a drawer in my classroom. And I also had a folder I saved of emails that were from parents and teachers and students that were just really kind. And I would save them in my nice email folder. And as a teacher, there are some really rough days and days you're like, why am I doing this to myself? I could just walk out the door and never come back. And on those days, I would go to the drawer and pull out those nice notes or go to my email folder and I would read them, and it would fill my soul and help me to remember why I was doing this and chose to be a teacher in the first place. Those words of kindness kept me going. And I'm so grateful for those people that wrote those words down that to me just shined and filled my soul with so much gratitude and love.
That's such a good idea. I'm going to start making my kids write nice things for me. And on bad days, especially going into the summer, I'm going to read them.
That's a good plan.
Thank you. I love that you had the written notes. I think we underestimate the power of our words and the power of showing forth effort to somebody else. That if you just write a note, what that illustrates means that you were thinking of them, that it was important enough to write something down, and you did it. I think that is a huge statement to make to somebody, even though it feels like a small gesture. And I'm learning that more and more as a parent, actually, or even a wife, because I will write Ben ridiculous notes, leave them like in Post-its, and I've noticed that he keeps them. But I also noticed I've kept many of his too. So clearly they matter. And recently, when my daughter ran away again, she doesn't really run away. She just packs a bag. She's been doing it since she was like 3. So wish me luck when she's a teen.
That's what I was just thinking.
She just packs up a bag when she gets sad. She's like, oh, we don't have Lucky Charms, huh? Well. And then she packs up her bags and she takes stuff, and no Lucky Charms, but just like whatever we have. And she hits the road, but she doesn't really hit the road. She just pretends. Recently, Iana was very sad that I went to soccer practice without her. She wanted to just go sit in the freezing cold weather with me, she thought. And I said she needed to stay with her dad and it would be a better time for her. But then I had to leave. I did not know that she packed up a bag to run away. Luckily, it was cold enough outside that she didn't. But the way I found out was I was helping her tidy up her room, and one of her backpacks was completely stuffed. And I said, what is in this backpack? And she's like, oh, that's just from when I was going to run away the other day. And I was like, oh, okay, I have a few of those bags too, but here we both are still at home. Good for us. And so I said, well, why don't I help you unpack it? And I'm glad you stayed. We were unpacking it and there was 100 pairs of clothes, obviously, and several pairs of shoes just in case. But there folded up was a note that I wrote her. And I was really surprised that she packed it. And I said, Iana, you kept this note for your runaway adventure? And she ripped it out of my hands and she's like, yes, I did. And then she goes and she put it in a drawer. So I was grateful that she wanted to keep it because I spent a lot of time doodling on it. So that meant a lot to me. I thought we do carry people's words with us. So hopefully we could be more aware and intentional with the kind of words we're letting other people carry that we've said or written to them. And with that, I learned I need to be more intentional with how I write and what I write. One of the YouTubers, he suggested the best thought process for this because he said, when you get a really big stomach ache and you feel horrible and you vomit.
Cod.
Yes. Recently, I tried to eat healthy and it went poorly. No more white fish for me. I never feel sick after Taco Bell ever. I do sometimes, actually, now that I think about it. But I don't throw up. I just feel sick. And then I have to lie to my trainer and it's a whole cycle. Anyway, moving on. This guy said that, how you vomit and you feel better. You're like, oh, I really needed that. He said we have to consider that with our journaling. Sometimes we just need to word vomit and we will feel better. So he came up with vomit to help you be more intentional with your writing. So he said the V stands for vent, that it's okay if you're venting. Sometimes you just need to, and it's a good place to do it. The O is obligations, to write down the things you need to do. I found this very helpful because I have a packed week and I've been writing down all the things I needed to do. And I realized it's actually manageable. I can do it. When it's in your head, it just feels chaotic. But if you prioritize and organize it the best of your ability, I say that for myself, then it is more manageable. So he said, write down your obligations, the things you need to do, organize it, prioritize it. Another reason to journal is for your mindset. And this is another thing they found is people who journal are more grateful because they're more aware of the reasons to be grateful. So this will help with your mindset. The I is for ideas. So this could be something as simple as trying to figure out what to do with your kids all summer, what to do with yourself all summer, or just ideas of how to fix whatever needs to be fixed. And then the last one for vomit is a trajectory. So to look at your direction from your big goals, are you on track? Or just as simple as your day-to-day direction of the things that you need to do. And I thought that was pretty helpful to think of it as vomiting because sometimes you just need to vomit and you will feel better.
I really like that. And I'm glad you brought that up because it does make me feel better about what I was reading before we did this episode.
Yeah, because it made us nauseous.
Well,
we're on track.
Yeah, exactly.
We're in the right direction. So there are reasons to write that will help you physically, emotionally, spiritually, and could be something very special that you leave behind for your future generation, or they'll just feel better about themselves for having read it. And then they'll say, at least I'm not great grandma, because what was that?
This brings us to our final thoughts. President Kimball said, every person should keep a journal and every person can keep a journal. Some of us are really good at this, and some of us, like me and Cydni, have some work to do. The point is to create a record for you to help you remember the times the Savior has comforted, helped, guided, and provided a way for you. This will help you when faith gets really hard. Words can shine when you're having a bad day. Your words can shine for your family and friends to pick them up when things aren't so great and aren't going so well. Our Heavenly Father wants us to keep a journal. He wants us to remember the good times and the bad. And as I have unfortunately learned, he also wants us to remember the cringy times. But it helps us realize that we have grown and we have improved and we can do hard things with the help of our Lord and our Savior.
Our challenge this week is to write something down. This could be writing an entry to your journal that's been hiding in a shelf somewhere in your house. Pull it out, write an entry. Or it could be writing someone a letter, or it could be a text. We challenge you to write something down with intention and love this week, or pull out some of the deep darkness and grief in your life, write it down, rip it up, and let it go.
This is our prayer
from Cydni and Sher. Have a good week.
I'm forging my way through the tip top. I'm living my life through the drip drop. When eternity's plan, I just can't stop. I'm making my way through
And then I have another one of Titus that's my favorite. That side note, this was published in the Oprah magazine.
Are you kidding?
Cool, right?
I stand with greatness.
Thanks to journaling on Twitter. The best they do say is hand to paper. Well, pen to paper. Use your hand. You will write about what's important to you, and that's good because it's good. Was that good?
Yeah.
Okay.
That was really deep. This is why we're big time. We bring the solid advice.
Don't use that word. It's not popular at Kula. For Riz. Skippity. Toilet. And authenticity. Authenticity. I'll say it one more time. Okay, don't look at me. Oh no, I've got the case of the giggles. I can do it. Okay. And authenticity.
Oh, you did it.
I've ridden Jane Fonda's horse before.
You have?
Yeah.
How did you ride Jane Fonda's horse?
Well, I rode it because my aunt ran their Ted. What's his name? Who was she married to? Ted Turner? Yeah.
I was going to say Ted Bundy, and I knew that wasn't right.
I thought of Ted Bundy as well.
Oh.
Ted Turner. My aunt ran Ted Turner's Buffalo Ranch in New Mexico. So they had Ted Turner's and Jane Fonda's horse. So I got to ride her horse.
Again, I stand with greatness.
I know. Read it in my diary. I wrote about my greatness. I decided to write everything out. And I spent 3 weeks. I wrote the whole story, all my feelings. And after that, I was fine. I mean, I was fine with like medication and therapy and hot yoga and Taco Bell by 10 a.m. But other than that, the writing really was the magic sauce.
You're really selling this journaling stuff, Cydni. Way to sell it, girl. And one of my favorite poets was Emily Dickinson. So I looked up some poetry because I hadn't read it in such a long time, like years.
She's in my family line. Can I just say? Yeah. Like 15th cousin, 900 times removed or something like that. So I think that's where I was going to say something positive, but I'll say the truth. I think she's looking down on me in shame.
I've learned so much about you today, though. Jane Fonda's horse, Oprah, Emily Dickinson.
Yes, there's more. I'll tell you later.
I can't wait to find out.
Have a good week.